Yes, thank you. I hereby call to order this regular meeting of the education of the Tuxedo Union Free School District on this Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now call roll.
Heather Kidda,
Present.
Alyssa Horna,
Present.
Kimberly Breland,
Present.
Dan Castricone,
I'm only here.
William Clark,
Here.
Bill Gibbons,
Here.
and Gary Hefner.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our September 20th, 2023 meeting?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? I've heard all the ayes.
It's good counting.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we will now move into the public comment section of the meeting. If any members of the public would like to raise a comment or question, please raise your hand and wait to be called on, and then state your name. I just want to remind everyone that, just one moment, that this public comment section is for agenda items, and the public comment section later in the meeting is for items that are not on the agenda. Okay. Oh, okay, Aoife.
Hi, Aoife Gay, Grove Drive.
We don't need your address going forward.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
I can't stay for the. I wanted to know why Spanish was taken off of the curriculum for the young grades, when it happened, why it was approved, and what was the logic behind it.
Okay, so we will make a note of that and get back to you.
Comment at the end.
Yes,
Yeah, thanks.
thank you. Michael?
We have two comment at the end of
Yes.
the presentation. So Mike Santoyani, I used to serve as a board member and also have been helping and consulting with the board regarding the proposed land acquisition for the possible school in the future. And I've submitted various comments, because I can't do them in 3 minutes, to the board members. Please look those over when you can, because I will make further comment at the end of your presentation. I'm looking forward to this presentation. I think it's very important that the school district and the members of our community understand this issue fully in all aspects. It's a complicated issue, and although there were public hearings with the town board, in my opinion, the town board did not support the school district's position on this, and I don't want to see the school district blamed for a site that is not adequate for our future needs and Lennar and the development future needs. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for putting the presentation together to inform the public of this very important issue.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, any additional comments? Okay, great. I would now like to introduce Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Jeff White, to present his administrator's report.
Good evening, everybody. Just following up on something from the last board meeting. Last week, I had a discussion with Warwick County Supervisor Michael Sweeten. Mr. Sweeten advised that at this point, the owners of 47 Forge have not yet been accredited as a private or religious school, but are in the process of obtaining it. The owners have represented the town that this will be a special education residential school. They will not be requiring transportation of their students with Tuxedo. I asked Mr. Sweeten if the district would list us as an interested party. He replied that the planning department had made an error in not listing us as such previously and said that had now been rectified. Thank you, Dan, for going to that meeting that they held as well. So that's, we'll be getting the information on that as it goes along. So we saw lots of cars outside, but unfortunately, they're not here, they're next door. And that's because the varsity volleyball team is doing very well this season. They're currently 10-4 and looking forward to the postseason playoffs. On Friday, the girls won the OCIA Division VI championship with a win over Seward. They're undefeated in their division. Last night, they also won a hard-fought game over Washingtonville. Mind you that this is a school with over 1,000 kids in their high school. Comparatively speaking, our team and the hard work they have shown here. If anyone is tomorrow night, they'll be honoring their seniors before their game against Liberty High School. It's the final home game of the season beginning at 6 o'clock. Stay tuned to the website and social media as well to find out the news and dates and times for postseason play. Yeah. Okay, we're moving forward on quite a number of things in addition to our elementary math initiative, which is moving along nicely, as well as our social learning program. The district's in the process of implementing the Renaissance Learning System. It's a computer-based assessment and learning system. This will allow teachers to continuously measure student skill levels in both ELA and math. The data can be analyzed on an individual student level as well as on a classroom and school level. The data will provide each teacher with information that will guide their instruction and practices. In addition, the teacher will also be able to identify individual student needs and provide effective remediation as well as enrich those higher level students. The system is designed to provide customized computer-based instruction to each student on their individual level. So that's moving along very nicely. October 10th through 13th was the Fire Prevention Week. GGM students were able to enjoy a special visit from the Tuxedo Fire Department on Thursday. October 12th, the fire safety prevention assemblies began inside where students were reminded about how to stay safe in the event of a fire. From there, students went outside to see the fire truck and learn about all the equipment. Many students enjoying the extra treat of being able to go inside the fire truck as well. A special thank you to Mr. Rich Ratazzi for organizing this event for the GGM students. Red Ribbon Week is scheduled for October 23rd to 27th. GGM students and staff will join in this national campaign. The theme this year is Celebrate Life, Live Drug-Free. This is an ideal way for GGM school community to unite and take a visible stand against drugs. GGM students will be participating in Red Ribbon Week by raising awareness of the importance of a drug-free life. Okay, GGM will be uniting to the following themes. Monday, 10/23, I'm Too Smart for Drugs, wear your favorite college shirt or career clothes. October 24th, Lay Off Unhealthy Habits, LEI, wear tropical themed clothing. Wednesday, October 25th, Team Up Against Drugs, wear your favorite sports jerseys. October 26th, Peace Out to Drugs, wear peace signs and or tie-dye. And Friday, 10/27, put unhealthy habits to bed, wear pajamas. All right, and technology, we have installed, successfully replaced our aging Cisco firewall with state-of-the-art Meraki firewall. This strategic upgrade brings a host of benefits, including simplified management, real-time threat intelligence, and improved performance. With the new firewall, the district is poised to safeguard a new network more effectively while embracing scalability for future growth. A firewall is a vital network security component that acts as a barrier between our trusted internal network and untrusted external networks that are found on the internet. It monitors the filters, incoming and outgoing network traffic, enforcing predefined security rules to prevent unauthorized access, cyber attacks, and data breaches. In addition, we got our new fleet of copiers that was just completed. The new copiers play a crucial role in enhancing our cybersecurity by incorporating advanced security features that the previous copiers did not have. Our new devices include built-in encryption, secure boot processes, and user authentication mechanisms to prevent unauthorized access to both sensitive documents and the network itself. I may have our Director of Technology and Marco at some point give a presentation about all this stuff. We also have tonight some big doings. We've got, as we know, the presentation on the Tuxedo Farms. And also, we have found a new high school principal. So Mrs. Munkel, is she, she's online? Okay. Is she coming up here? Margaret, you want to give us an overall about how the process went, who was involved, and who did we select?
We met with individuals, highly successful individuals, and with a committee of 10 plus myself. The process is the same process that it was in August, is that we get together as a group, we talk about what we're looking for, the qualities that make a good secondary principal as well as an assistant superintendent curriculum instruction. And then when we're done reviewing all of those qualities and determining what makes, who makes the best person for that role, we then ascertain questions. We start coming up with questions. We talk about the best way to ask questions in order for us to elicit that information or get that information from the person to see if they do possess those qualities that we are looking for to use. When we're done with that, interview, we want to take it as comfortable as possible, but we also want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak and that we do gather as much information that we can in such a short period of time. There was an hour between each individual, which gave our candidates about 45 minutes to have a good conversation with us, and we certainly left a little bit of time at the end for the candidates to ask any questions that they might have. When we're all done getting prepped for that, at that point in time, I share the resumes with the committee. So at this point, we're not looking at specific people. We're talking about what do we need in this role. Now we're looking at the people. We're looking at the resumes. We're seeing if there's anything that we want to talk about or ascertain from those resumes. And we're going to add those few extra little questions in there with each individual. Then we bring each individual in. Everybody, again, gets an opportunity to ask either at least one question or two with follow-ups, and then the individual is able to ask us questions. After the 45 minutes, we take them to a different room. They actually have a writing sample to complete, and then they are on their way. Went through this with all 3 individuals. When we were all done, the committee gets back together, and we go through a process to kind of determine what it is about each individual, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. Do we have candidates or a candidate that we can move forward comfortably and securely to the superintendent for his consideration? And in this particular case, Darren came to the top of the pile. He has the experience. He presented very well with the committee. The committee felt very strong about him being a wonderful leader for the district. They complete evaluations. We take that to the superintendent, and then I conducted reference check and a thorough reference check. At that point, we are where we are tonight, putting forth what we consider to be an amazing candidate for the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Secondary Principal. Jeff, do you want to add anything to that?
Just want to thank you for doing a great job on this, Margaret, and the members of the committee that participated to get us where we are today. And I don't want to be presumptive, so I'll wait till after the board votes to congratulate our candidate and ask him to stand up and say hello. Anybody have any questions or anything?
Thank you, Margaret.
Great work, Margaret, thank you.
It's one of my favorite jobs, so I really appreciate you asking me to do it, and it was really great working with the staff and the teachers. It was quite an assortment of people on the committee, and I always enjoy meeting new people, so it was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Margaret. Excellent, thank you. Yeah, let Dave in. Yeah.
Can you get the door?
Is it locked?
Okay.
Oh.
Now we will move on to our personnel consent agenda. Before we go for a vote, does anyone have any items for discussion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
5.2, and a few minutes on 5, 3, 4, and 5 also.
Okay, so can we move to those, that's on the business consent agenda? Can we approve the personnel consent?
Wasn't the personnel?
Personnel is in the fours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, great. So if no items for discussion in the personnel, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I just want to make one comment.
Yes.
Jared's from Greenwood Lake, and when they heard that he was going to leave, they didn't want him to go. So they countered him with money and titles and everything else, and then, he said, I'm not going to do that. I've been through the process. I made up my mind, so thank you for that, Jared. The superintendent had called me up. Jared was supposed to start on the 20th, which is right before Thanksgiving. The superintendent at Greenwood Lake said, could we please have him one more week? So I said, we certainly want to have good relations with our neighboring districts, including, especially Greenwood Lake, who we've been very closely related to for many, many years. So we agreed to do that. He'll start, instead of on the 20th, it'll be the 27th. So we'll have to just amend that on the agenda as well, if that's okay with everybody. Anybody have a concern about that?
Nope, thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for personnel?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All
Con-
opposed? Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Congratulations, sir. If you'd like to, and you don't have to, I don't want to put you on the spot, you're welcome to say anything, or you're welcome not to. From here up there? Oh, up here is great.
Thank you for that. Good evening, I'm Jared Kamar, and certainly proud to be here. I want to share, I'm so happy to be here and grateful to be part of your school community now. Margaret was fantastic and the consummate professional throughout the process. Jeff, you've been fantastic getting to meet with your administrative team through our work in the process, and what really stuck with me in meeting with your committee. I was very excited coming into the interview process. I left even more excited after having gotten to meet everybody and hear about more about Tuxedo and have that conversation. So looking forward to the transition process and the work ahead of us. So thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So now we'll move on to our business consent agenda. So Dan, you had some points for discussion, please?
Yeah,
Thank you.
5.2,
Okay.
and then just, we could spend a second on 3, 4, and 5, because those are big.
Great. Okay, so 5.2.
Are we going to vote on the other ones, or you want to start talking
Oh,
about the 5.2, however you want to do it?
Yeah, if we can just go on discussion and not pull them out, and then we can vote on everything together unless there's an issue to pull them out.
All right, on 5.2, I prefer that we voted on each individually. One of the folks on there is not a full-time employee of the district. At least I think the contract ends in December. I'm not sure if we should be appointing someone whose contract ends in December to the position of evaluating the principals. So should I go on to the next ones, or?
So it sounds like we should be, we'll pull this one out for a separate vote.
Yeah, and I want to vote on the people in it
That's fine.
separately. yeah,
Yep.
If we
Okay.
could, you know?
Okay, 3, 4, 5, you wanted to touch on?
Right,
Yep.
I know that, you know, college and the high school has been you know, something that I've been working on and very excited about for a long time. I see that the 5.3 is the Lincoln Tech. I know that Marco Margata, you know, worked very hard with that to get Lincoln Tech, you know, another opportunity for our kids that want to pursue a technical career and get college credit for that, get credit for that. And, you know, I had begun the initial introduction with Stack, but it's great to see Marist on here also, another terrific local school. So I know that some folks are worried about the transferability of the credits, you know, especially in these, you know, the kids are taking 100-level courses. Usually those go over pretty well unless you're, you know, going to take if you're going to be a nursing major, you know, the school you go to isn't going to take our bio, right? But they'll take our economics, you know? So usually if the kids take general stuff, they're going to get accepted almost anywhere. I'm real excited about that and happy to see it on here today.
Great, thank you.
Any other items for discussion, or?
We pulling 5.8?
I thought we weren't gonna.
Oh,
Yeah, we're, that's right.
that one's not included. Yep, so we can just
Deleting
cross that
one,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pull out 5.2. We can vote on that separately. May I have a motion to approve the business agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Great. Okay, so let's move on to item 5.2. We can go ahead and vote on each of the individuals separately.
Just before I do, is everyone on that list certified to do that?
They are. And we would like to get started right away. We don't want to have anything similar to last year where we have late evaluations being done, so we want to start relatively quickly. We are going to do an APPR overview and training with the staff so that they will know what to expect when these evaluators go in the classroom. So I'll be evaluating principals as well as Mr. Mehrhoff, and then we have the two principals who will be evaluating the teachers.
What is the time period between Jared's start date and Ed's contract expiring? How many days does that include?
I have to check. Mr. Mehrhoff's not here tonight. He has his, tonight is his wedding anniversary. That's right. How could I forget? So I don't remember the date of his contract. Was it January 31st?
Yes.
January 31st, yeah. And Jared will be starting on November 27th. Yep, okay.
And what's the process to reappoint a new evaluator in the event that one's not here?
The same as this. My recommendation is to keep everybody on here. That's why I put this here, because it'll help the process flow. So I'd appreciate it if we just kept everybody on there and approved them all as are.
How long does the process normally take if you count the training and the actual visitation, evaluations, and the
It
write-up?
depends, Gary,
Now
you know.
we're talking down to like 60 days,
Yeah, we have.
including holiday,
Yeah.
including Christmas.
So we're probably also going to ask, Mary Stephanie from BOCES is also working with us on our math initiative, and she did some of our independent evaluations last year. I might add her as well, but she actually teaches.
Principals? Is
She may be doing, she could be doing both, but
She's qualified for both?
she teaches it, yeah. She's one of the trainers, so she's outstanding. So we may add her next month as well. So we want to make sure that we get a lot of what the state calls inter-rater reliability. So we have independents come in and review. It is small district, so typically what had happened in the past is the principals would flip. The elementary and the high school, one would be the principal evaluator and the other one would be the independent, and vice versa. We certainly can do that in the future, but it's always good also to have someone like a Mary Stephanie or an Ed who have done multiple school districts, and, you know, they have a very broad base of perspective. So I like having them there. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Wouldn't it be good to have an evaluator who is not associated whatsoever with the district? So that it's a clear, open, you know, they're coming in, not, they don't know anybody, they don't, you know, they're actually just reviewing and evaluating the teachers, or evaluating as what they see.
Yeah,
And
that's-
nothing is behind it, nothing's tainted, nobody has feelings or personality clashes or anything.
Right. We did have Mary Stephanie for that. She's a BOCES employee, not one of ours. She comes with a lot of years of experience, so she's going to be added on the next month's agenda as well. Other questions?
Yes. So have the teachers been made aware of the criteria for which they'll be evaluated?
So we're going to be doing an overview of that and let them know what the expectations are. This year, we're going to be focusing on the Danielson model, but in the future years, because we're implementing social emotional learning, and we're going to be doing more and more STEM, we're going to be introducing that into the evaluation process to make sure that we see those things going on in the classroom as well. So, but for this year, we're going to just focus on the Danielson model. So we're going to be providing training on that and lay out, the principals will be laying out expectations, what they want to see when they walk in the classroom.
Great, thank you. Okay, so with that, do you have additional questions,
Yeah, I
Dan?
want to make a motion to amend the 5.2 then, and replace the name Ed Meerhoff with Mary Stefanak, and we'll do it all at once. I would need a second.
I will second that.
Okay, all in favor
Of amending
of
the
the
motion.
amending the
Or
motion?
discussion on amending
Well,
the motion.
on discussion.
Any more discussion?
Wait, so are we having a discussion on his amending?
Yes.
But, so, what's the woman's name?
Mary Stephanie Corsones.
Mary Stephanie. But you're saying that you want to add Mary Stephanie on top of this group?
Correct.
Right, so that
Right.
you need 5 people, not 4.
Well, this list is sufficient, but I think it will be great to have her as well. Yeah. I was planning to add her in November, but if you want to add her now, that'd be great. But
Well,
it's-
he's not saying add her now, he's saying
Oh,
let's
I
get
know,
rid of.
no, I know what
we wanna
I
have
know what he's
4
saying.
and
I know
not-
what he's saying. My recommendation would be to leave the list as I recommended initially and add her. Okay?
Later down the line.
Or we can add her tonight. Yeah,
Get at her tonight.
right.
She's aware that we plan on adding her at some point? Like, if we add her tonight, she's
Yes.
going to be like, what?
Yes, yes. Yep.
Surprise. And what's the added cost along with that?
Well, it would be incorporated into what she's already doing, Bill, because what we will do is, particularly at the elementary level, she's helping us with the implementation of the elementary math program, so she would most likely go in during that, but I wouldn't limit her to that.
So all the people on the list, it's not like they get an extra stipend to do this.
Nope,
It's just part of their job.
correct, that's
So
right.
then we could have 20 people on this list if we wanted.
We could. If they're leaving, but-
Okay.
And they have the training.
Qualified, right?
Correct, thank
Right,
you, sir, yes.
Right,
that's right.
okay.
Yep.
Can you explain the requirement that the board approve this list to begin with? I'm a little bit hazy on that,
Why you have to approve it?
as opposed to you just appointing them.
Yeah, I don't remember, Gary, if Ed was here, I would ask him that question. It's more of an HR question, but
I'm not
you
sure.
are required by the state to get trained in it, and they do require that the board appoint. I don't know what the rationale is for that, but I'll look
But-
into it. We'll get an answer back to you.
I'm confused what your answer was to me then. So you're aware of the board there's a requirement for the board to approve the training process,
Nope, you have to be trained and certified,
right?
okay? And the board has to also appoint you as an evaluator, correct?
So you're positive the board has to appoint?
Well, the second piece, as I said, I'll check with Ed
that's what I'm
on that one, but the first piece about having to know what you're doing and being certified, absolutely, yeah.
Right, but my question is, we don't know tonight exactly at a
He's not
minimum what we
100%
have to
sure.
do.
Yeah,
Are we doing this perfunctory, or is it?
Nope, I don't
State
believe we
law,
are.
is it
I-
a-
Nope, I believe it's a state law. John, do you, Mr. Xanthus, are you sure whether the state requires the board to appoint the evaluators? I'm pretty sure they are. Process, okay, got it, okay.
so can I offer a compromise that we replace Ed Bierhoff with Stephanie and table the vote on Ed?
Table that?
I mean, I don't know if that's acceptable to you, but I am kind of with Dan. It's odd to appoint someone to this role who their contract expires before the role is fulfilled.
Especially with someone brand new coming on, you may not have enough time to evaluate them. I don't want to rush the process.
Well, my recommendation stands. If you guys want to change it, that's perfectly up to you. And I do appreciate adding Mary Stephanie Corsones. That would be great. So now you'll have to make a motion as to whether you want to, so the first motion will be
Well,
to
I'm
add,
entitled to a vote on my motion.
Yeah.
Was the
Well-
motion and seconded?
yep,
So my motion was to replace the name Ed Meerhoff with the name Mary Stephanie Carson,
And I second.
and it was seconded.
Okay. And we had further discussion. So now, all in favor, are you amending his
No,
motion
I'm
now?
not.
That's the same
No,
thing.
okay.
I
That
yield
was-
to Dan
in
on
essence,
that.
the
Okay.
same thing, right?
Okay, we'll keep, okay.
I was essentially getting to the same place, but yes.
Okay. Aye.
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 All opposed?
I'm opposed.
Me as well.
So
Um,
the motion
so
has
the
been
motion-
amended. Now I'm sorry.
all right.
Thank you, Dan. So the motion has been amended, so now we have to, well, it's been approved as amended.
Now we vote to approve it as amended.
I forgot if the underlying motion was motioned yet. Was it motioned and seconded?
Yes.
Yeah.
We moved
Yeah.
to amend, now we're going to vote on the amended
Right.
proposal.
Okay.
So,
May I have a motion to,
I'll move it.
okay.
second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody have any more discussion?
Okay. No,
All right, and that's the rest of the, so the rest of the agenda is, great.
I'm sorry, since I asked to pull it out so we could talk about it for a second, we didn't actually approve 3, 4, and 5, did we?
I think we just discussed it.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay, great. Are we ready for the Tuxedo Farms presentation?
Let's see, Mr. Shaw isn't here yet, but I guess we could get started. David's been delayed at another meeting, but he'll be here hopefully shortly. But if you like, we can
Are
get.
there any other presentations you want to throw in front before?
Nope,
Oh,
that's the only one. We were going to do the presentation, then go into exec, and then come out and look at the agreement with related properties. So we can get started on that. All right.
We're going to have public comment before executive session, because how long are we going to be in executive session? And you don't want people sitting here for 20 hours, like usually.
I don't know how long we'll be on there for.
You could
We can move it.
make a motion to amend the agenda to do that. I'll support you.
I make a motion.
The only thing is, I think you've got some people who want to, they want to comment about it. They wanna see
But
the
wait, we're
presentation.
going to go into executive session, come out of executive session, and then discuss stuff? And then they're going to want to comment?
No, we were going to do the presentation,
No, yeah.
then go to exec, and then come out. We could do the,
No, I'm saying let the people, we'll do the
Yes.
presentation,
correct?
but then we have
Right.
public comment
Yep.
Yes.
before we go into
So we could
executive.
use what
Yep.
they
That
say
sounds like
in
a
our
motion to make.
executive
Yeah.
session.
Yep, that's a good motion.
All right. So, we're going to give an update about the Tuxedo Farms project, and wanted to start off by saying that the district has been very excited about the notion of Tuxedo Farms. We are very much looking forward to having the students that this project will yield. It's going to about double the size of the community. And also, I'm sure taxpayers will be happy that the assessments will also go up as well. So, again, we're very excited about the project. We had met with the town, the supervisor, and then we had participated in a meeting with the town. And the only thing that we asked at that time was that the town would delay moving the project forward until such time as we had ample time to negotiate a better agreement with Related and/or the town about the property site. So with that, we just want to give everybody a refresher on what was said, and some people, there's new members of the board, members of the community that weren't there at the town meeting. We just wanted to let the community know what took place then. This has been going on for decades, so we're going to just go through that briefly, just as a reminder, and let everyone know where we are now and what our recommendation to the board is. So with that, who's got the clicker? Dante? Okay, you can move to the next slide. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about a history of events, the projected enrollment increase related to the farm's development, the impact of the projected increased enrollment, the gift of land, the site topography, and the snakes, capital development and construction costs, and takeaways. So how did we get here? And I'm thankful for Mr. Mike Santiani and for Marco, because this has been going on for quite some time, and they've been my historians, as well as another board member who's not here with us tonight, but she's been a tremendous help, former board vice president, I believe she was, correct?
Yes.
Right, so, okay.
Diana Petrovsky.
Diana, yes, thank you, Dan, Diana Petrovsky. So here we go. The farms at 2004, we were in a constant discussions with Related Properties to the gift of land and to create a usable site for athletic fields and parking lot and a school. This at that time included prepping the site, clearing the land, running utilities to the site, and there were draft agreements created, but at that time, nothing was finalized.
So what you see here also in 2005, actually what's in red in this map.
Actually, you know what, before we move on, I should probably introduce everybody that's here with us. So we have Mr. Marco Morgata, who's our Director of Athletics, also our STEM teacher. He's also been a historian on this project and a tremendous help. Mr. Dave Latour is here with us from Jacobs, our construction management company. We have Mr. Chuck Stead, who is our environmental guru, and he is with his assistant, correct? And also Mike Santiani, who's been a tremendous help as well. So unfortunately for us for tonight, our architect, Mr. Tom Ritzenthaler, couldn't be here. He has come down with COVID. So we'll do the best we can without Tom. And with that, Marco, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So just what you see here on this map here, and is a layout in red of the Orange County filed tax map of the 40 acres that they proposed a school site on. This was actually dated 4/7/2005, and this was a map that was prepared by Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, and the map is actually dated 3/18/2004, and was filed with the county in April of that year.
Okay. And then they had concerns about that map, the county map, to accommodate the spaces the farms needed, which included the water tower, and I think there was a snake den up towards the left, and they wanted to create more discussions to go back to the originally discussed map.
So one of the other things that you see is that Related also showed this proposal of a map to kind of go back to that original map. But one of the things that you'll see with the topography here is that if you take a closer look from where the map started on the eastern side to the western side, there's about a 100-foot elevation across that area, those three pads. And you'll see in the next slide that these were the three pads that they particularly were looking at. Now, this is one of the options that the Related Properties actually proposed to the school back in 2008. And you can see there's three pads here, one to the right, which was a pad that was set up for a track and field. To the left, you have a pad that was set up for the parking lot, and then behind it would be a pad for the potential school. And again, one of the things that's pretty obvious with this, especially if you look at the topography, from the right side for the track and field all the way up to the high school, you're talking about a grade of about 100 feet in elevation. And that's something that's very, very impossible to create. So, next slide.
Marco, how many stories would a building be to be 100 foot?
Roughly, and I think, Dave, we were talking about that earlier, you'd say probably like a basic high-rise, right?
Well, that's right around the cutoff of the high-rise.
It's 100 feet.
Anything above 10 stories is considered a high-rise building.
So about 10 stories?
Yes,
So here's another option that Related proposed to the school. Just if we didn't need a high school, they would actually propose to just do a track and field with a parking lot. And again, this is the same layout basically, but just two pads. And again, you're talking about the elevation going from the track and field up to a parking lot. And you got to talk about accessibility, especially when the grade is from, one side to the other side. And this is a full build out in terms of how it would look in comparison with Uvard Field. And if you notice, Uvard Field is even lower than that elevation of 100 feet, which is probably another 50 feet. So now you're talking 150 feet from the base of Uvard all the way up to the high school. And again, which is something that's almost impossible to create. This is an email, actually. We kind of dug through some emails, and one of the things we came up with was a conversation that happened between our former superintendent and Related, in which they talked about that lot line change. We showed you the county filed map, and then we showed you the amended map. And one of the reasons why Related claimed that they changed the lot line was because of three major points. And I don't know if you can see it on the slide, but the first one was to avoid the water tank, which if you've been up in the property, you'll see there's a water tank up there. And then the second piece, which is being a snake den. And I just want Chuck Stead to just kind of talk quickly about that. And then we'll move on.
There is a snake den in the area. It's a fairly large one, and when we get to my section of it, I can talk a little bit more about it. But we've known about it for a long time. We've had a number of herpetologists over the years go up and examine the den. We haven't done a full tracking study, which would be the best way to really understand where the snakes are going and how they're using the habitat.
So as you can see in this email, Related identified that there is a snake den that we were trying to avoid. And as Chuck will talk later on about how far the snakes will travel regardless of where the den is. And then the third piece, which is I think also important, is talks about the reason why they moved the lot line changes because they wanted to provide more accessibility to utility connections to the school site, which, as we know, is not happening. So, and here's another piece that was part of the environmental impact statement that was developed in October of '99. And in this piece, they also talk about, as I just mentioned, the snake den and basically how far they would travel in terms of where it's located and the outlying areas.
All right.
You want to see that more?
Nope.
Okay. And this is another map. This was actually this is the current layout of the 40 acres that's proposed to us. It was approved by the Tuxedo Planning Board, I believe in 2018, and Related proposed this lot line change. They finally actually sent it to the planning board, and back in 2018, the planning board approved this lot line change. And I have to point out two things. Never did they notify the school that they were changing the lot line, and never was there any notification saying to the school, hey, we're looking to change this proposed lot. Even though it may not have impacted the property because we don't own it, but the Uvard Field is bordering that, so that's something that they should have done and never happened.
And they never made a change at the county, correct, Marco?
And to
So
this
the
day-
original map is still what the county has.
And if you were to go into the county, you could see the filed map is still the original map. So if you look at this layout, this is an overlay of, you can see in kind of like a light red, that's the original county filed map. The tannish area is kind of what is still the property, and then obviously the yellow part on the right side is part of the property. That is what they're looking to offer us at this point.
Because the snake den is somewhere up here, right, Marco?
Chuck?
Actually, it's sort of hard to tell on that. I believe the big den, let me just use the pointer, is right in there.
Right in there?
And the problem will be for them is they've gotten a lot closer to the larger den. And there's a switch, this wildlife can require some leaving the forest habitat for the habitat, ephemeral habitat. So that'll be a problem for them now. Oh, sorry.
Okay, next slide. Okay, do we have Barbara? Dante, do we have Barbara?
I'm here.
Ah, Barbara, great.
Hi, everyone.
All right, we've also, forgive me, we also have Barbara Graziano with us. Barbara is from Western Suffolk BOCES. Western Suffolk BOCES is expert in demography, school district demographics, and Barbara's been on the project since the beginning, since I've been here. They're experts, they go across the state, and this is their focal point in her department. So she's going to tell you a little bit about some of the enrollment impacts of the project. So go ahead, Barbara. Next slide. Dante, please.
This slide shows you the current 2023 enrollment in the district in both the elementary school and the high school. The next two slides show you projected enrollment, which overall is projected as it stands right now to remain relatively stable. The concern is, though, of course, what will happen when students start entering the district from the new development, which if you go then to the next one over. This slide shows you, according to the Rutgers yield multipliers, which this is a multiplier that is standard to the industry for projecting the number of students that may come out of new housing developments. So if you look where that red arrow is, it shows you that the total number of units would produce approximately 377 total school-age children. If you go to the next slide, then we did adjust that based on, because some children will go to private schools. So if you look at the bottom in the gold area, that shows you by grade configuration. That middle line in the gold box shows you elementary, and then below that the high school. So moving ahead in year one, as you can look.
And that's about a 10%, Barbara, that's about a 10% projection of private school kids, right?
Yes, exactly.
Can we ask questions as we go along?
Yeah, sure.
If you go back one slide, the first column of home type, I know that Related has changed the makeup of all their, how many townhouses, how many single families. It seemed to be moving more towards apartments and condos. So was this evaluation based on their most recent plan? Because it seems to have changed every year or so.
Actually, Gary, it was changing monthly for a while, or every
Being nice, but
for a while. This is the latest one, but we'll verify.
But based on what they're 10 years ago, it was a lot of more.
Yeah, no, this was, this is town. So we'll update them, if there's been another change, we'll update it again, but I don't expect it's going to change dramatically.
But that's what I'm saying, so it's pretty good.
Pretty recent, yeah, but
Based
you
on
know
the
what,
most
yeah,
recent.
something recent just happened, but I'll check. Mike, are you aware of any big changes in the mix recently happening, or the stuff that we had the last go-around was the latest and greatest? was issued based upon that. So this should be, yeah, okay.
Because I think these are the most important numbers. So that 377 with the red arrow, that's including our current students? So
No,
that's
that's the additional, correct.
So it's a 222,
Yeah, that'll be coming as a result of the farms.
so counting the 222, it's 600
Yeah,
until the next slide, 10%.
yeah.
So that number,
You just drop it 10%, so it goes from 377, no, I think 330, I can't read it, 339, I guess.
oh, we need to add 222 to that.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
right.
just want to make sure
Yeah,
everyone
that's
understands
right.
that. So that number's about just under 600,
Yep,
580.
yeah, and our estimates, Gary, so it may hit 600, these are guesstimates, right? So, okay, Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you.
So yes, if you look along, it shows you starting with year one, it's projected there would be 10 children from the development, and if you move all the way across to year 11, it moves up to, as you can see, 339 children. And that, if you look below that, that would be 189 students in the elementary school and 150 students in the high school. And of course, the main concern is, one of the main concerns is the elementary school. That's 189 students. Oh, and I should mention, the Rutgers multipliers do not take into account pre-K. So pre-K would be in addition to that 339. If you look at 189 students added to the elementary building, that comes out to, if you divide that by 6 grades, K to 5, comes out to approximately 31 additional students per grade level, which that would require, to go to the next slide, an additional section for each grade level, K to 5. As I mentioned, it would also, I'm sure, need another pre-K section, even though the pre-K is not included in the Rutgers projections. There would also be an additional need for special education classroom, as I mentioned, pre-kindergarten, and then with the additional students, there would also be a need for additional rooms for support programs such as music, STEM, and art classrooms. This would all require approximately 22 classrooms, and right now the elementary building has only 14 classrooms.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Is it required by state law to have the special education classroom? Like, if you hit a certain amount of students, then you have to have X amount of extra rooms for these supported things like music, STEM, art, but especially like special education, like,
So that would be self-contained classrooms, but, we're trying to do inclusion, so I think we did the architect did put an estimate in here for special ed space as well in the school. He did consider for that, and yes.
okay.
Yes, and as, rest assured that as the student population grows, the self-contained, or the special education, the need for special education space will also grow. I mean, every school that every district that we work with is seeing increasing special ed needs.
Okay, so if you go back one slide. Okay, so according to the architect, he felt that there'd be an extra section for each grade, K through 5, an additional self-contained special ed classroom, to answer your question. An additional for pre-K, as Barbara mentioned, it's not included in those numbers, and obviously for the specials, music, STEM, and art. So 22 classrooms is what our architect had said that we would need, and the current school has 14. So that would, according to CS Arch, we would require 8 additional classrooms. Okay, so next slide. So AKRF, if you remember, Greg Goucher brought in, he had his children go to a private school in Manhattan, and he has a relationship with the architect that works at his kid's school. So he asked that person to come in. I don't think, they definitely don't specialize in public school architecture. So they came in, and obviously Related is trying to reduce their, what they have to provide to the school to mitigate, their development. So their architect had stated that we would only need 19 classrooms versus our architect saying 22 classrooms. And so again, our architect says we're going to need at least 8 additional classrooms. And in addition to that, next slide. Oh, and that's the other thing. Marco, you want to talk about some of this stuff here?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Dave.
I'll take a stab at it.
There you go.
I'm not the architect. I work for Jacobs. I wish I brought my scarf and beret, but I didn't graduate from that program. I'll do the best I can to explain some of the options that were provided by the other architect, and do the best I can to explain the code requirements for how the building size and the classroom size is determined. So MBB architects presented 3 options, and we'll go through those 3 options. Based on the current configuration and layout of both the elementary school and the high school, they took a look to see if they could actually do a renovation, reconfigure some of the spaces to accommodate the students. Because of the vintage of the building and the way it was constructed, that would be cost prohibitive. And you probably would need to add an addition anyway, and that addition would either, you would be required to buy additional land, or you would have to build on a parking lot, and we all know you need parking at schools for various reasons. So that was sort of a non-starter. The other thing that needs to be mentioned is that when we add this number of students, we also need to increase the size of the cafeteria, or you're going to have another lunch in rotation, which is disruptive to the kids. The other thing is you need another gymnasium. And one of the thoughts was to actually have the kids commingle at the high school right away. That also lended problems for curriculum and time and students traversing outside of the building to get to a new gymnasium that would have supported both the high school and the elementary school. Next slide.
Next slide, Dante.
One other thing I just want to mention too is that obviously with the additional gymnasium and cafeteria would also affect the schedule because of, our having only one gym and having only one cafeteria. It really impacts our schedule, and obviously without having multiple spaces, it would affect the schedule as well too.
Okay. So what was discussed was potentially a new elementary school on that site, approximately 56,000 gross square feet. That would be based on the estimated enrollment of an additional 312 students. And what the other architect didn't take into consideration is they used 85 square feet per student as a factor, but that factor is only used in New York State to calculate building aid from the state. So that does not include what the code requires is 150 square feet as a total, when the building is at capacity.
And this is one of the things that we had said when Greg Goucher brought in an architect that wasn't fluent in New York State public school law. It's really going to be irrelevant, a lot of the things that solutions they're going to provide.
Go to the next slide. So I talked a bit about this already, where a new gymnasium, the new gymnasium option, also the cafeteria and servery areas would require additional space to accommodate all the students. And then one thing I didn't cover was the health office at the elementary school would need to be larger. Most of the districts that we're currently working in, when we ever touch the main office area, which is usually tied to the health office or the nurse's office, they do have to increase the size. There needs to be a separation to the kids. There needs, based on the number of kids in the building, there needs to be so many beds in that health office with a private bathroom and the like. So you can see how things kind of compound on each other as you move forward. Next slide. So here was the gift of land and the cash contribution. So you can see from the topography there that this was, I believe this was the original survey that we got, and I don't believe we ever received, or you ever received, excuse me, a more recent updated topography of the land. Next slide. So this was the proposed layout of a potential elementary school building, and you can see it's that kind of L-shaped building that's surrounding the parking lot. You could do the next slide. So we all know that 100-foot change in elevation, but what I really want you to think about when you talk about the preparation of the site is that, number one, it's a public building, and any building truly needs wheelchair access, right? So if you want to have the school accessible by all students, that includes the playground space, that includes the field space, you would have to be able to provide a nice walkway with a 1-on-12 grade, and that would be very difficult to accommodate here. And there was even some discussions whether or not you'd need a mechanical lift between tier parking or the athletic field to get to the building or to get to a parking lot.
Dave, I think according to Tom, it's unquestionable.
It's
right?
unquestionable.
Yeah, because when you look at the, from the parking lot to here, I believe that was at least 30 feet, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, we would definitely need some sort of like an elevator or some sort of mechanical lift, right?
Absolutely. And then, one of the requirements for security and safety of the students is to have emergency vehicles to allow them access around the entire building. So you can see how close the edge of the slope is to the back of the elementary school building in this layout. You would actually have to kick that out an additional 50, 60 feet to build a retaining wall so you can actually have a fire truck get in the back. The other thing that needs to be taken in consideration is that you have athletic events on the athletic field. Usually you want to get the ambulance as close to the field as possible just in case there's an injury on the field. So all of those things need to be taken consideration. The other thing that you don't see from the picture is everything that needs to go under the ground. You're building into a hillside, so the rainwater runs down the hillside close to your building. So there's a tremendous amount of dam proofing and drainage to shed the water away from the structure, and of course also the athletic field. I've actually seen turf fields float away when there's too much water in an area. So to excavate for all the drainage and the retention and follow all the codes, that gets very costly. So I don't think anything's impossible to build. We built the pyramids, right? Unless you believe the aliens built the pyramids. So it's just going to cost a lot of money to prepare the site. So that's when we get into some of the site prep. So early estimates, the rock removal is about 43,000 cubic yards. What the buildable portions, what Related didn't take into consideration with their $1.3 million estimate, I think you can go to the next slide, you'll see the numbers here. So when we're talking the numbers, and this is what I'm here really to talk about, is Related had come back and said, hey, it doesn't really cost that much money to prepare the site.
And AKRF didn't even put anything in
didn't
their,
put together, right.
their analysis either. And then we had CS Arch develop a cost estimate. And if anyone remembers, during the meeting with the town, we sat across from them and they said that that 27 million was way out of sight. It could be done for $1.2 million. And at the time I said, well, typically in a large construction project, I would have my architect and my construction manager prepare independently a cost estimate, and then we would sit down and we would figure out, any variances there. So when they had insisted that, and with their architect and their environmental people, that this would cost $1.2 million, I said, okay, great. I'll tell you what, we'll hire you, we'll give you a check for that, and you do the work. And they said, no, we're not going to take that deal. Because the truth is, the area, to do this, it's going to cost between $26 and $27 million to develop, and I believe it's just 10 acres out of the 40. So you divide that, you're talking $2.7 million per acre just to have buildable land. I think, I'm sorry, I think that when the town bought Quarry Field, Mike, I think they paid something like 2.5 for 64 acres. Is that about right? Quarry Field? For 40 some odd acres, right? Yeah, so this would be 2.5 million per acre before you even put a building on it. I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, obviously the discrepancy here is not really just the price of materials and labor. It's the scope of the work to get the site ready to build the 3 pads. What they had assumed was that 1.2 million basically covers the blasting, does not cover rock processing. So once you blast the rock, it's in very large pieces. You need to crush the rock and make it usable and then move it around. It doesn't include trench rock removal for utilities. It doesn't have a drainage plan. So we assumed a lot of that cost in the $26 million that we put together. The other assumptions are, in order to have that site buildable, we're going to have to build retaining walls first to have the pads roughed out so that we can bring equipment and machinery up to actually build the building. So there is a tremendous effort of probably a good year and a half to prep the site to get everything ready to actually put a field in, put some parking lots in, and put the building in.
All right. Now, Chuck Stead and Natalie Kivak will come up and talk about the snakes up there.
I don't, Natalie, do you want to come up? I don't think you do, but
She does.
Okay, you can stand in support. Very quickly, I'm an educator, so I probably, I gave them way too many slides. I asked them to cut out half of them. I think they did better than that. But some information on there. We don't have to read every word of it. I just want to make sure we all have some kind of communal understanding of what it means to have snakes. And I think what you're going to get out of this is Fish and Wildlife, the DEC, is going to have a real problem if blasting happens in the vicinity of this particular den. And there may be 2 dens. We may have discovered a second den, but we would need to verify that. And all of this would be more verifiable if we did some radio tracking, which is something that down the road is going to have to be required anyway because we know it's an ephemeral migratory route. So that will be necessary eventually. Not on your dollar, but it will be necessary eventually for the development because they want to make sure that they're not that they're keeping the route that the snakes take open. This is our rattlesnake. We can see here, there's 2 pictures of them. There's one on the eastern slope of Torn Mountain, and there's one over there at Delaney Swamp, which is adjacent, just south of the parcel that we're looking at, which means the one over there, this guy over here, in all likelihood is part of the population that uses the habitat in the area of the parcel. And this gives you an idea of what's happened to our rattlesnakes. The dark area is the area that was the historic range of the rattlesnake. So you can see that the rattlesnake has been losing a lot of its area over time. The copperhead hasn't, in case you're rooting for the copperhead this time. Those are our 2 venomous vipers. But the rattlesnake in New York State lost a lot of property, a lot of territory rather, and also throughout New England, a lot of bounty hunting. There's a history of bounty hunting in New England, a history of bounty hunting on the western slopes of New York State. That did a lot of it, but also it was encroachment all the time. And those are areas that have been encroached upon, particularly in the New England area going closer to the ocean. So here's an unusual picture. We got a black snake and a rattlesnake in the same photograph. They don't care for each other much. They will den together in the wintertime, but other than that, they tend to keep some distance from each other. So it's a good shot. It's an interesting shot. And as you can see, it's a photograph done by my colleague, Jeff Welch. And it's right over there at the Sloatsburg site, South Hill. There's some different places. We got some closer to the property as well. So these particular snakes probably aren't in our area, but it's a good shot of what they look like, and it reminds us that they don't really den together. In the text up there, we got herpetologist Randy Steckert, who's worked with New York State for years. He's a phenomenal snake expert. Studying the parcel in question, he found numerous black snakes and copperheads. That's going to be one of the issues. We know that copperheads are living in the den I'm going to show you, and we know black snakes have been cohabitating with the copperheads when it comes denning time. We haven't found rattlesnakes in the den because no one's done an actual study of the den. This is just periodic site visits. But we know rattlesnakes use the area as what's called an ephemeral migratory passage. So it is a habitat passage. And that doesn't mean the rattlesnakes aren't using the den. It just means that we officially, as scientists, we haven't actually found them and documented them there. But we know it's good habitat for them. And with the second den, it's entirely possible the rattlesnakes are there. We don't know that yet. Natalie and I were out last Thursday morning. It was too cold. They wouldn't be out roaming around. We were looking for them, and we didn't find them at the time. Randy went up there originally because, as you can see in the text, he had been interested in the area since he spoke with construction workers who were there in 2007 along the western border of the parcel, which would be up right by the water tower, the aforementioned water tower. They had seen a rattlesnake, so they were concerned. The word came down. Randy went up. He didn't see the snake that day, but during his study of the area, he found his associate, David Griggs, came across a young rattlesnake just south of the recognized snake den at the parcel. We think they were moving around because there was activity in the area at the time, and that would cause them to get up and move around and perhaps even leave their immediate area for a while. This snake emerged during the time of some blasting, as you can see. Given that he found mostly copperheads and black snakes, Randy believes, and this is what I was just telling you, that the rattlesnakes in the area are using it as using the parcel as what's called an ephemeral migratory habitat, meaning it's an important habitat for them. And until we do radio tracking, we won't know their actual journey, but we have a pretty good idea from a little bit more of the evidence. And this is part of it right there. As you can see, and I don't know if you can read the italics, but this is a mature rattler found right over there on the other side. And we do know that they're crossing the valley. Oh, why didn't the thruway get them? Well, they're using the culvert. So they find their way that way. And they follow scent trails. They have ancient scent trails, so they will continue to follow those. And the ones that don't follow the scent trails, we don't worry about because they got nixed. You know, if they got on the thruway, they didn't make it across. So mostly the snakes that we have coming back up there are making their way over there and coming back because that's a basking area over there, and we know they mate with other populations of snakes, and then they make their way back. So, yes, the little italic said this is not a den that Indiana Jones could fit in. Snakes do not go into big open caves. They go into little crevices with declivities that open up inside to give them a little bit of a chamber, and then they wrap themselves all together when they den. So that's pretty much the kind of rock. You've got a lot of rock like that up in, on the slope because there are ridges that come down, and they're south and east facing, which is a good natural solar collector there. Now, as you can see in the text, if you can read it from where you're sitting, they follow the scent trails, and they literally follow back. They're not born in the dens. They're born out in the rookeries. They make their way back to the dens that their mothers and their relatives come from because that's what they recognize. What I'm telling you is if you mess up enough of the migratory route, they're lost. And once they're lost, they're lost. You can't take the snake away. Oh, this is a nuisance snake. I'm going to make him go live in Monroe someplace. You put him down there, he's lost. Doesn't recognize any of the scents, wanders around too much, predator gets him. Then they'll have their predators. So we'll go to this shot, and you can see all the neonites. Those are the young snakes, the gray ones. They're the babies. And if you read all of that information, which I couldn't help myself, I do that, they incubate inside the animal. The eggs are soft shell eggs. They open up inside the animal, and then the animal deposits the eggs later after the snake has come out. And they produce a lot of snakes. I mean, if you can see there, 20 pregnant females will be producing in one possible rookery, and you could end up with 100 snakes within the rookery. You can end up with a good deal more than that. You're wondering, where are they? How come I haven't seen them? They're stealth. They avoid you. They avoid you like crazy. They don't cross over into your yard unless, of course, they want to sun themselves because they're getting ready to go back to the rookery, but that's rare. They are stealth, and so are the copperheads, but they're a little bit more arrogant, so I wouldn't mess with them if I were you. So there are the two dens. In this photograph, this is the new one that we found. It's a denning site. It opens up inside this gap right here, and the declivity turns and opens up so I could get my snake rod in there and twist it around. Nice packing in there, obviously moved in by the animals. So it's a great place. We don't know that it's an active den, but it's got all the conditions for it. Want to come back when the weather is nice and warm late in October to watch them come home. We think that's a den, but the one that we know is a den, an active den rather, is this much larger one. And it's the one that Jeff was mentioning to me before, and I tried to indicate on that other map. And there you see Natalie. I had a better picture of her actually climbing inside the den a little bit. That would have been kind of brave and scary to see. But they're not home. They're not home. It was way too cold. Or if they're home, they're way deep in there because it was way too cold for them to be out. Or they could just be under other rocks as well. If you read the text there, we got site 1, we got site 2. Look at the numbers. The new one that we found is 300 yards. The second one is 500 yards. Those are good distances. You need those distances. You need the vegetative cover. You need that easement so that the snake doesn't get impacted upon. That earlier map illustrates that the rattlesnake is on the threatened New York State species list with Fish and Wildlife. They're going to want to protect this. That's going to be an issue. If the time came and you were going to build here, don't you know, Fish and Wildlife would be right down here being terribly concerned because I saw from your other illustration that had the overlay, you were right up very close to them. And that newer den, actually, you were on. So if that's the case, then that would be problematic for you.
Is it against the law?
Yep, Fish and Wildlife would protect them, so they would stop you. The den is old. The dens average 1,500 to 2,000 years. The one way you can date them is you pull out artifacts from inside them, and then you try to carbon date them, because they have remains.
Well, what happens if we just blasted that rock by accident and all the snakes were gone?
That's a great question, Natalie. So what happens if we start blasting, Chuck?
You get fined, and you get, there's a work order that stops you.
Natalie's over there.
Oh. Sorry, I'm talking to you. Go ahead, Natalie, you answer that question.
This is strong water
What
I'm
happens
drinking.
if they go ahead and blast by accident because they didn't hear our concerns? You don't want to use the mic? No. She's a very quiet researcher. Likes the field, hangs out with snakes. You can't. You can't. You'd have a work order from New York State. DEC would be on you like a tick on the back of your puppy. You just can't. It's very important. They're a threatened species. The map is shrinking. That map is actually more generous than
I'm
it is
not
today.
arguing with you. I'm just
I'm just letting you know.
what-
It would be
right.
it would be problematic,
Okay,
and it would cost you.
right.
And it would cost you every day that you didn't stop if it moved to that. Because once the den is gone, it's gone. That den, we don't know the number because we haven't done a full study of it, but that den could hold 200 snakes. We don't know. Once it's gone, that's gone. That population is reduced by that number.
So if there was a den even where they're projecting the school be,
Yep.
like in the middle of the school, we would not be able to build a school there anyway.
No. You're very close to the den.
The point that we're making here with all this between the 100 feet incline and the snakes is this really never was a viable site to put a school.
And the earlier record shows in the discussion they were having, they knew this.
They knew it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were aware of that, and that's what we're basically trying to point out to you here. Between the snakes and the elevation, this really never was a good place for a school.
So I just got a couple more I'll show you, and we can move on. That's a snake sunning themselves down by Delaney Swamp. We think that's one of the snakes, the rattlesnakes that are in the population that accesses this migratory site, because that's basically where they would be moving to. That's how you might see them. They're like to sun themselves by a crevasse that they can jump into in case you come along to try to catch them. This is a black morph rattler, and there's, if you read the text, there's a mythology that black snakes and rattlesnakes once mated so that they could come up with black. That's nonsense. That's not real. They're black morphs, they're yellow morphs, and so forth. But I included this picture because when construction happens at the site, no matter what happens, when that construction happens for the development, for the farms project, I'm going to be back bugging people. They need to put up a snake fence to encourage the snakes not to go to the construction. Rattlesnakes can't climb fences. Black snakes can, but rattlers can't. And they're going to need that as a buffer so that they can keep the snakes on the side that they need to stay on so they don't get killed. And that's what we did down in Torn Valley. You see that picture by 2015. It's a picture of what we did when we did the work down there. And this is what we need to do. Ultimately, we need to radio track these guys to have some idea where they're going to make sure that they can still go there, even with the project built for the Tuxedo Farms. And they are going there now. We know they're making it back and forth over the valley. We've just never officially tracked them. That would be a great project. The little transmitters are surface mounted. They shed them, and then you reset them. But all of that is doable, and we did that over in Torn Valley and the lower end of Sloatsburg, so we know literally where all of their roots are. And they stick to their roots. They're pretty like homebodies. And there's the last shot, beautiful pregnant female down in Torn Valley, sitting on a beam right next to the old salt box. And that was a great moment for me when she showed up, because it meant that we had restored the habitat, because that indicator species was back. Okay, and that's good?
Yep, thank you, Chuck.
You're
Thank you, Natalie.
Oh, wait. It can be anywhere from 1 mile to 4 miles, but I think the guys that are here are probably doing within the range of 1.5 miles. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Kids see them once in a while down there by the baseball field. I mean, there are ways to discourage that. You can put in the snake fence, and you can encourage them to continue not going out. And they don't like to go out on an open field. The hawks will see them and eat them up, so they kind of avoid that. But you can set up some fencing so that, you know, more or less, that they're encouraged to move within the area. And they leave down enough scent trails that the fencing isn't necessary come the following year, because they just start following those trails. That's what they do. So you can work with them. I know you don't want to, but you can.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I know you can't talk about what the developer's intent is, but if I'm a developer and I have a large piece of property, am I obliged to find out? A couple questions. One, am I obliged to find out if there's snake dens on my property?
Yes.
If I find out properly, what are my options? And is one of them give that land with the snake dens to somebody else?
Yes.
What are the other options?
There are no other options. If you've got rattlesnakes, you have no other options. If you've got copperheads and no rattlesnakes, there's some leverage, but you can't move the den. So even though it's not the threatened species, where copperheads go, rattlesnakes may go. And we don't know that they're not there. We just know that we only found the copperheads. Pearson Lake's estate had an episode where, I can't tell you the names of the people, there's an issue around it, but where a den was destroyed intentionally because they didn't want it. And it's a big issue. It's taking a long time, but there's going to be consequences to that, because now the numbers of the snakes that we know are in the area are gone, because that's what happens when you wreck a den. The dens are very old. They don't necessarily say, oh, it's urban renewal. I'm going to move down to the hill there because I got a better view. That's not what they do. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, yeah, use this one.
Just to further that answer, anytime you build a new building, you need to either go through a secret process and that would be what the school district would need to do for this new elementary school, or you're going to do an EIS.
And for everybody's knowledge, the SEQA is State Environmental Quality Review, correct?
Exactly.
Dave?
Exactly.
Because not everyone is aware of that.
And, yeah, if I remembered exactly every letter in the acronym. But, so this developer did an environmental impact statement, and that's how they found the snake den. So they had to place their site so that they wouldn't influence the den. So yes, to your point, they sold the site. So what we would have to do is go through that process, hire folks like this. They would tell us how close we could do blasting to the area, what level of disturbance is acceptable to the snakes. This would be an increase in cost, which is captured in our estimates. You can see why the estimate is so high is because you're going to have to pay for monitoring and things like that in addition to just what you generally pay for on a flat site. You notice they don't build Walmarts on sloped hills with different tiers, right? They build them on flat sites very quickly because the cost of construction is minimal. So, you know, just to further that answer.
I have
Okay.
a follow-up question for Marco.
Sure.
So you showed, one of the earlier slides showed something, a letter in 2015 where they referenced a snake den.
Correct.
So at that time, do they have knowledge of where these snake dens were?
That
Or-
I don't know, but I would assume that with that statement, they knew that there were dens somewhere, so.
Okay.
Chuck, would they have known that?
So the parcel that they've been talking about us building a school, they knew in 2015 had potentially or probably a 2,000-year-old rattlesnake den.
Even as early as 2005, because the first time it's
Right.
referenced.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, yeah, 2000, absolutely. And especially by then, because we'd already had people up there officially funded inspections, but anecdotal inspections by people who would recognize this stuff like Randy and David Griggs and so forth, and we found snakes there, of all the species.
And that's why we went to the town to try to get an alternate site, because as you can see, this is not a buildable site. Dante, next slide, please. Okay, in addition, we told the town, obviously, with the additional kids, we'd have staffing costs, transportation costs, utility costs, maintenance costs, and capital expenditures. And we also were concerned about the AKRF market value and the assessments. We had asked the town if they had had the town assessor look at the market values. And at that point, up for all those years, they had never done that until we asked them that. And then they finally engaged the town assessor. And then if you remember, AKRF at that point, we were concerned about the equalization rate, because when they did their analysis, it was 16, which is how they equalized the properties in the different municipalities. And it had dropped into the 13 range, and we had projected that it would go down into the 12s. And they said, oh no, it's going to go back up. Now this is going to impact people's taxes. And then, so we said it was going to be in the high 12s. An equalization rate this year, if you remember, it wound up dropping to the low 12s. I think it was 12.12. So these are some of the concerns that we had, we raised to the town, and that's why we asked them, please just give us a little bit more time with both you, the town who has land, and with related properties, because we can't really use this site. So next slide. Okay, do you want to do this, Dave, or do you want me to?
Yes. So the takeaway is the donated site is really not a viable building site for a school district, considering the cost due to the changes in elevation, having to build 3 platforms for a parking area, track and field, as well as the new building. And then just the site logistics of allowing students and the community to use the building and provide accessibility brings another set of concerns for the design team.
The development will have a tremendous impact. And again, we're supporting Tuxedo Farms. That's not in question. There are people, I've heard some rumors that, oh, the school doesn't. We do support Tuxedo Farms. We do want it. It's just the location of the site. They're supposed to it's supposed to mitigate the impact of their development. That was what the whole point of this was, for them to remediate it. Giving us 40 acres of unusable land didn't help, and $2.5 million of cash from 2015, which isn't worth the same value.
No, certainly not.
But so let's go to the next slide. So the conclusion is, again, we're very supportive of the farms. We attempted to negotiate a better deal with the town and related, but they dismissed us, and that's recorded. It was videoed. So, but despite that, we do recommend that the board accept the cash contribution in the gifted property. The property does have value. The assessor valued it. I believe the fair market value, they have it listed as about $650,000. And the cash contribution of $2.5 million, it's over $3 million that we'll get. It's unusable for our purposes, this land, but there are consortiums out there that would be interested in obtaining that and paying us a fair value for. Am I wrong on that, Chuck and Natalie?
Yeah, there's a number of environmental consortiums that are preserving ecological corridor. It would be a key ecological corridor. Oh, sorry. So it wouldn't be out of the question that the property could be marketed with them. There's some negotiation because they're connecting it to other properties, but it's all doable. And I can tell you this, there is some concern out there because they know about this. So
Chuck, would you speak at this mic, because they won't be able to hear you at home.
Okay, sorry.
So there are environmental consortium organizations that are concerned about this, because there's, the rumors out there, and they're also somewhat aware of what's going on with the snakes, because that's the dialogue we all have in the community that I'm a part of. And given the opportunity to lock in that property, buy it, given the opportunity, first you guys getting it would be locking it in, and then they'd have an opportunity to turn around and negotiate to buy it, would be something that's a very doable thing. I can't speak for them because I'm not working with them, but I've been talking to a number of people representing them, and they're very interested. So that would be a part of saving the entire population, establishing the ecological corridors all the way down through Delaney Swamp and back up again, and then across the thruway over to the other side once we track the movement of those guys.
And Brian Weir and I did speak with our insurance, not New York State insurance reciprocal, and we mentioned to them about the property. We told them what it was like, and they had said to us, Jeff, any land that the district owns will be fully insured. So any liability that occurs as a result of that, it will be an insured, it'll be insured property. So,
Jeff, insured for our current premiums or?
yeah, at the same as everything else, would be just as if it was a piece of our property that we have as of today. So there's no additional liability that wouldn't be covered. And I think from a legal perspective, we have our attorney here, Mr. David Shaw, and he's not going to give a legal opinion in public. We'll have to get advice in executive session. But at this juncture, I think the one thing we can say is that we have, without this definitive agreement, without us signing this, we have nothing. The developer doesn't have to give us a thing. So that's where we are right now. Does anybody have any questions? We tried to be thorough. I hope it wasn't too long, but it's such a critical aspect to the future of the school and the community that we wanted to make sure that everybody was informed, and this is being recorded, so it will be on the website for those who couldn't be here tonight and those who couldn't watch it live. So any other questions, comments, concerns?
I think many people don't understand thoroughly why we're constantly talking about building another school. When they say, we used to have Greenwood Lake, there were 400 kids then, now you're just talking about getting 400 kids now. How come you can't fit the kids in the building like we did a few years ago with Greenwood Lake? So I think you need to explain the difference between Greenwood Lake was added kids that were only in the high school.
Correct. And there was an
not
addition.
in the lower school.
Correct. There was an addition put on in the high school to accommodate the Greenwood Lake students, because Greenwood Lake has an elementary and middle school, and they sent their kids to our high school. So there was enough space for the kids from Greenwood Lake in our high school, but the issue again, and I think Barbara pointed that out very well, and so did Tom in his slides, is the issue is going to be at the elementary school. We're not going to have enough space, and combined, it's not just the elementary school. When you look at the gymnasium, the health office space, it's really going to impact both buildings. So, yeah, you can't look at it from the past and say Greenwood Lake could, because we'd have to put all the kids in here, and educationally, I don't know of any district other than a one-school house district who does that. Any other questions? Yep.
Each time that I see the word gift up there, I just want to jump out of my chair. I've been, involved in this sort of issue with the town for the last 20 years. And the 40 acres and the $2.5 million were mitigation for the effects that this was going to have on the school. It wasn't a gift. The only reason that the town board of, Ken McGar and Elise McCatherine and that crew ever agreed to give them the first special permit was because they had agreed to make a mitigation to the impact to the school. And the 40 acres that they had originally planned on giving us were usable acres. You could tell they're usable acres because they want them so they can use them. That's why they're not giving them to us. And along the line, we keep hearing, again, there was another permutation of this along with Mike Rost and his town board, and Dave McMillan was on that board, and they made sure that the school was protected again. These aren't gifts, and I'm aggravated as hell that it keeps calling them gifts. These were mitigations against the environmental impact, and the way that this is going to affect the school is part of the environmental impact. That's what SEQR is about. So, just aggravated at that.
Yeah, I agree, and as I said before, it was supposed to mitigate the impact, but and they knew at the time, any of that area up there, any of that 40 acres no matter which section you give it, was not really developable, and they knew that. And they knew about the snakes. It's in their environmental impact statement. And these are the things we tried to convey to them, and these are the things we tried to convey to the town. But unfortunately, they just wanted to move ahead. Again, we don't want to be typecast as against the farms. We're not. It's just we need a place to put our kids, and that's all. So any other questions, comments, or concerns?
This is a very unfair, tough question. But if we find land someplace to expand, build, 1, 2, whatever, what is the estimate of the cost? Is it 1 million to 5 million? Is it 1 billion to 5 billion? It's obviously something in the middle, but what range can you say of the projected students will have in 8 or 9, 10 years, the end result, to fit all those kids? What are we talking about? To build 22 classrooms and a new gym and a new cafeteria?
To construct a new facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And procure
Well,
land. So I know it's so many variables, but
Just to answer another question, because people say, what about this building? And remember, this is an addition that was put on, what year was that, Marco? 99. But the original, which I think is the larger portion of the building, it was designed to be a 100-year-old building. It was designed to last 100 years, and lo and behold, it's 100 years old, okay? As well as the auditorium is also, and the kids are complaining about it all the time. I see Anthony in the back. Anthony gave me a petition. The kids, the heat in there, the condition of that gymnasium, it's old, antiquated stuff. And the architect has said, I wouldn't recommend, just as you wouldn't, you get a car that's got 200,000 miles on it, you're not going to dump a pile of money into it. It's the same thing with this. So to answer your question, first off, you have to decide what land you get. And as Dave Latour had said, if you get a flat piece of land, it's a lot cheaper than if you get something that you got to do some work on. And at the time, the 2 pieces of land were the 88 acres related, had extra property here, and the town had Quarry Field, so those are the ones we're looking at. So there's 2 costs, Gary. There's getting the land ready to make it buildable, and then there's the cost of constructing facility. And what Related kept stating was that, you know what, instead of us giving you our money, we'll just have the new taxpayers pick up the whole bill. And according to their market values, they kept saying that there'll be more than enough money to fund all of this. So, but that all depends whether the fair market values will hold, where the equalization rates go. But I think the architect, and Dave, you correct me, I think for an elementary school, Tom had mentioned it was in the neighborhood of like $40 million to build that. Now, you have to remember something. That's not $40 million. You say, okay, we got to pay that right now. What happens is you're going to do construction, you're going to issue bonds. And those bonds will be over a 30-year period. And you're only going to issue, first you issue bond anticipation notes to fund the initial construction. And then when you get enough bands together, you bond them out in one whole chunk. So this would be something that would be spread over 30 years, and you'd mitigate the impact financially. So what we want to do is when we move forward with whatever it is we're going to do, we have to plan. And one of the things that Tom has mentioned to us constantly is that it takes a lot of time to do this. We can't flick a light switch. They build the houses, the kids all move in. Okay, well, put the building up now. It takes 4 to 5 years from the point they start, building. We have to make a decision. We have to figure out a place to put a building. We got to get the community to agree that we need one. And then we have to create plans. Again, so community agreement, we got to build the plans. We've got to have the plans reviewed. An architect will devise it, a construction manager will review it. It has to go up to state education department.
Let me cut you off, because I know there's more to that answer, but I'm talking about pure numbers. I was going to suggest that the conduct of the town board and the builders recently was disappointing to me. But the more I've learned, I think the correct word is disgusted. I'm disgusted by how the town board has not supported our students and how the current builders, I don't know what happened 20 years ago, but I'm disgusted by the behavior of the builders. If we take the land and sell it and the money, we're talking $3 million. So my question is, best case scenario is building what we need, and I forget 30 years out, this and that. I'm just trying to say what that $3 million will cover. If the project to do all this is $6 million, that means that $3 million covers 50%. I know that's a crazy number. If it's $300 million to do all this over 30 years, then what they're giving us, gift or mitigation otherwise, is 1% of our cost. Not really much mitigation. So that's my question. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, what percent of future costs for all these kids over 10, 30 years does this $3 million cover? And I know it's a tough question, so that's why I tried to say, based on your experience, is it going to be 10, 50, 100, $200 million to build what we need?
No, I think.
Not just the building, but the busing, the staffing, the property, to handle these kids. There has to be some ballpark range, even if it's a range of 50 million, that you can give us.
We did develop that. I don't have it with me here, but we did, and we presented it at the town. We did have all those operating, again, they're estimates because you don't know, where the kids are going to be. There's a lot of combinations and permutations to go along with this. But $3 million, to answer your question, it's really a drop in the bucket.
I was going to use the word a pittance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, but a good start would be if we're able to, I did put a call to, Mitch Newman from Lennar. So the community understands, Related Property was the developer. And so they developed the property, the commercial development, and what they do is they transfer the property over to the home builder, and that's Lennar. That's a separate company. I did speak with Mr. Mitch Newman, and this is a new, even though he was for the discussions with the town, we're going to have new discussions with him. I don't know if there's anything that they can do, but he's certainly willing to sit down and discuss it with us. But I'd also like to sit down with the town. I know that there's going to be some new leadership at the town. It would be great to sit down with them. I think Quarry Field would make a great alternative, even though a lot of it, there's a chunk of Quarry Field that's in a flood zone. There's a parcel that is not, which would be where the fire department practices. And even though where the current track is, that's also a flood zone, but it was raised up. So maybe there's something we can do, but we do have to plan and we do have to get moving. So once this happens, I'm going to recommend that the board accept this tonight. And then once the building starts happening, we're going to have to put together a facilities committee and bring in the community and make it very public as to, and transparent as what's got to happen to move the district forward in the right fashion.
I think that we have to leave all options open for the future, like you said, but for the purposes of this meeting, I'd like to move into the next public comment section, please. Yes.
Jeff, can I just mention something? I want to respond to, Kimberly had a good point of saying, how do you justify us having, the number of students in our district in Greenwood Lake? And I just would respond by saying this, in the high school, when you add students grades 9 through 12, you just add sections, which you can still house in the current classrooms, but when you add students in the elementary school, you need to add classrooms because you can't have a third grade and a second grade classroom. You have to add classrooms, and that's the bigger difference between housing kids in the high school and trying to house more kids in the elementary school.
So you're saying by law, if somebody's in the second grade, they cannot be in a classroom with a third grader?
Well, you typically don't do that. That's not
Right.
what I don't know if there's a law that says that you can't, but I mean, you typically don't do that.
Right.
You house a second grade in a classroom. You don't house them with another class, but in the high school, you may have another section of a social studies class, and you can put them in that same class, maybe a different period, than you would, again, you add classrooms in the elementary school, but you add sections in the high school, and that's why we could accommodate more kids in the high school, because you're just adding students to sections, so.
Thank you. So right now, you're going to make a suggestion to us of accepting something or not accepting something.
Correct.
Because we're at the point where we either take it or we don't, because there's no other options.
Right.
So, right.
We've been given a terrible choice by the
Right.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
So just to let the public know, we really don't have a choice in this except to accept the two million and the land, or to accept nothing.
We have a choice. I'll be voting no. We have a choice.
So you want to accept
Totally
nothing?
voting no on this. It's ridiculous to offer. I'm insulted by this offer. I do have a choice.
I know,
My
but then,
choice will be to
but then
vote
we
no.
get nothing.
That's just today.
This-
Yeah.
I'm sorry to correct. I think that Jeff mentioned that you would have a choice of everything or nothing. That is not the choice, and go to your legal counsel. However,
I-
the special permit, as well as the agreement that they're asking you to sign, it may have changed, but when I saw it, it says you either accept the land or it will be offered to the town. The payments are, you get it either way. You get $2.5 million, 1.2 something at the first payment and the rest. So it is not one, it's not all or nothing. You get the money. The question here is, do you want the liabilities that come with this, being that this meeting apparently says you all agree that it can't be built on? Or do you want to take it, and I have some other comments, public comments about those conditions that you should accept. But please defer to your attorney and that agreement you should have in front of you that they're asking you to sign that says you get $2.5 million. Either way, that's part of the deal in the special permit.
I thought I heard there were no liabilities to accepting the land, and there was a potential marketable value, so.
Yeah, that's what I
What's
heard.
the downside?
That's crazy. So who are you gonna sell it to? Snake worshippers? Who's gonna buy
Okay.
$600,000?
We're, we're out of order right now. Thank you.
I
Okay.
want to make sure I understand what I'm voting on. I mean, I think I heard that there were no liabilities to accepting the land. So what is the liability? I mean, what goes wrong if we take the land? Forgetting whether or not we can sell it. We just have the land, we own it forever. What's the liability in that?
And again,
Covered by insurance.
we spoke to NYSER, and NYSER will cover the property as if it was any other property that we own. So,
I'm just trying
and
to
I
figure out what the
think,
downside
I think the thing, Bill, if we did take the property, we'd have to, Chuck can correct me, I'm wrong, if we posted signs, posted, this area is,
Yeah,
you know,
you would just post signs and then you're covered because you post the signs. It's like they do down in Kakiak Park. I would just like to point out that if you don't take the property, I know that these environmental consortiums like Open Space are very interested because they want to protect the ecological corridor. Down the road, they're liable to wind up buying it from Related if Related still has the property at that point.
Chuck, just so you know, if we don't take it, it goes to the town.
Well, then they're going to turn around and offer the town money for it at some point.
Correct, that's right.
I mean, one way or, okay, so, but one way or another, they're sensitive to this thing and they're going to want to protect the den. So that's in the works.
I'm just saying, I've heard no downside. I've heard a potential upside, so seems like a no-brainer to me to take the
Yes.
property.
We
Bill,
do have
I
a
wasn't
choice.
attacking you. I was
Yeah.
just
Oh, I know, I'm not, I'm,
didn't
dude.
jump on you.
Okay, so with that, is there further discussion amongst the board? Okay. Can we move, may I have a motion to move to public comment?
I was just going to say, when we go into executive session, I want to have a discussion with our attorney about some sort of statement, a public statement of rebuke to the current town board. I think that should be something that we do.
So we're voting on this after?
After exec.
Okay.
May I have a motion to? Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public comment now.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Aoife, please. Okay. Not quite yet. Eva, before you start, I just wanted to address something that you had brought up in prior meetings, which is the public comment on the live stream. And we've talked to our tech department about that. And so there's some challenges with having it, so with public comment on a live stream with regard to whether comments are going to be appropriate or behaviors appropriate in that live stream with public comment on there. So we will not be moving forward with public comment on our live stream going forward, and that's in line with what other districts are doing within, and the district clerk roundtable with BOCES, and in terms of best practices. We would love to open up public comment for those who cannot attend the meetings by having people write in, and we will read that public comment, assuming it's within the guidelines of what public comment is, so not about individual students or personnel or personal matters.
Right, well, there's two responses to that. It would be great if you could have a written version for public comment. You can offer it now. In the past, you did offer the option for a virtual live public comment. It's under the same guidelines that you would have to control somebody at the microphone in what they're saying, and you can actually mute them quite faster online than you can right here on a microphone. So,
Yeah, understood, but it is the opinion of our tech department to not move forward with that and in line with what other districts are doing. And a lot of districts have moved away from live streaming.
we can break the mold and offer this option to parents
can.
because they can't be here at 7 o'clock in
They
the evening.
can send an email.
Okay, no
Okay.
problem.
Thank you.
The other comment to go along with that, since we
Mhm.
started with that, is
Mhm.
the audio is really poor. When several board members are talking, you can't even hear them at the back of the room, let alone hear them online. So having a format where you can't even hear them online now or in the back of the room is kind of terrible. So could the tech department work on the microphones?
Sure, I'm not the loudest person in the room, so we'll work on it.
I can hear you, sort of,
Okay,
if I
great.
strain, but there's other board members, we can't hear them. So
Okay.
it's an audio problem all around, you know.
Thank you. I know that we've had that feedback, so we'll work on that.
And the superintendent has left, so if you could come back, maybe I could get an answer on why Spanish was taken from the younger grades in the district.
So with the public comment.
we answer questions.
Right. So what I was saying before is that the public comment section, we're not going to be question and answer. So we've heard the question, and that will be addressed after the meeting at a different point in time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is David McMillan. I live at 73 Nursery Road, up the hill here. I've been going through this stuff for years and years now. Planning board for 3 years, the town board for 8. I've been there working through multiple special permit amendments. I've watched all of us go through this problem all along to get to where we finally are here now, and it seems like it's rebroken again. That distresses me, to your point, that the town board can't even have a discussion. I watched those discussions that occurred, I want to say it was close to a year ago with Related, you guys and the town board. I was disgusted by what I saw as well. I'm a very ethical person, so I'm not going to take the opportunity today to mention that Ricky Marsh and I are running. I don't want to use this as a campaign platform, but I said it, okay? So it's out there. I'm running for supervisor. Ricky's running for town board. We need a change in Tuxedo. Why do I say that? Why am I saying it here now? We already have your solution right in our hand. We have it on our platform. We're willing to come right to the table once the election is over, come to you with that Corey Field plan in its entirety. The fire training center can be moved to a nicer place, and we have a plan for that. We also have the luxury of having time to put this deal together, as long as it takes the burden from you guys having to worry about something else. You have a lot of things to worry about, you guys. I know. Civic duty does this to you, right? You get nervous, you have to get things put behind you. Solutions are important. I just want you to know that we're going to be here for you and have that solution in hand so we can make this go away. And Ricky Marsh is right there to support me, and so are other board members that are currently there that are not running. So thank you for listening to me. Sorry for using this as a stumping platform, but I think it needs to be said that you have support, and you need that support critically, and we're prepared to give you that support as long as we're raising our hand and supporting the community and supporting the school at the same time.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mike?
Mike Santiani, Clubhouse Road, Tuxedo Park. As I mentioned earlier, I've been advising the board on various issues.
Speak into the mic.
Mike, yeah, the community calls and tells me, we can't hear, so if you could just speak into the mic. We want them to hear what you have to say.
It's going to be in my mouth in a moment. But, so obviously, you have been advised about certain things. I want to reiterate that if you look at that agreement, clearly you are getting the $2.5 million, regardless of whether you do or don't accept this land or postpone this decision, because some very important information has come up, and I've submitted some things that you really should consider before just acting on it tonight. There's still time. They were going to move forward either way. They didn't buy this land and say, oh, the deal's off because you didn't take the land that, oh, by the way, we didn't tell you, rattlesnake dens all over. But I suspected it, and the DEC and Chuck have confirmed that. So blasting is an issue. One of my other suggestions was, why not make the gravel that they need on the site and clear it? Well, because of the blasting that he brings up, maybe that's why they reneged on doing the blasting. They have not been upfront with you, and you need to clarify some further things. And one of those things is, if this lot's going to be gifted and you're going to accept it, the zoning has not been set on this land. If it's not going to be a school site, which they will try to designate as only to be used as a school site, you need to be at the table on the planning board as an interested party and get as many possible realistic uses so that you can sell it to somebody, snake charmers or not, in the future. This is an important thing that needs to be in your agreement, and that's why you should defer signing this tonight as well. I'm disappointed that the public can't hear this, because they sit at home hoping they'll hear everybody's opinion, because they're not aware of these things. And this is the first time, and I've advocated for going public for this for 6 to 9 months. And out of respect and trying to negotiate in good faith, the superintendent with related kept trying to, and they kept canceling meetings. And so the public is not aware of this. I'm concerned that you will be blamed for taking this site and not informing the public of these downfalls in accepting public land, which will, another downfall is, it's coming off the tax rolls. Related has to pay taxes on it if they keep it. But what do you think they're going to just turn around and say, we're offering it to the town? They don't want the liability, which you'll have, signs on the trees or not. Nobody wants a tragedy of the kids being up there falling off a cliff or getting bit by a snake. We're all used to snakes in this town, but if it's school property, you get sued for everything. So that's a concern of mine, and that you should consider and talk to legal counsel about that. The egress issue. This has not come up, and I've advocated to use that as a bargaining chip right along here, and it still hasn't come up. Marco Morgado has done an incredible job of research.
We're at time. Can you wrap it up? I know it's such a short time.
Yeah.
So let's have another minute.
That's a bargaining chip. It's not coming up. They don't even have a legal special permit if that egress isn't a real egress. It's on your land. You should be negotiating with that. There's more, but I'll wrap it up. You have my comments, and I'm going to give this to TPFYI as well, because unfortunately, if the public can't hear these public comments, and this room should have been packed tonight as it would have been in the past, but because of technology and people thinking they're getting the whole story, they're going to get part of this. And they're not going to understand the gravity of this. And I'm doing this because I am staying in this town. I have a grandson. I want him to go to this school, and I don't want my taxes going up. And we need another solution. I've brought you numerous solutions over the past, how long, Chuck, or Jeff, since you were, it came to be superintendent, you reached out to me for my knowledge base. So I'm willing to continue to help find another solution. And the Quarry Field, there's a solution right there, and I spoke with them last night, and I know another member who is running will also support that.
You've provided countless hours, Mike, and a lot of great ideas and a lot of history, and I absolutely appreciate so much everything you have done and continue to do. Thank you, sir, and we will definitely look at, and I will get a copy of things.
And please confirm in executive session with your counsel that you do get the $2.5 million. That's a matter of special Now, aside from that agreement, it's a matter of the special permit.
Great, thank you. Okay, so do I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
We might be coming out and
Yes,
doing
for-
business.
I didn't motion.
I moved to go into exec, but I think that was out of order, right?
Yeah, I wasn't sure we were done with comments.
We will be
To,
taking
the
action.
reason is we're seeking counsel from our attorneys.
And we may be
Taking an
taking
action when we come out.
Yep. Okay, so we have motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Can I have a motion to return from executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to rebuke?
I'd like to make a motion to make a formal review of the town board, and if I get a second, I'll discuss a little further.
I'll make the second, I'll second that. The process that we've gone through to deal with these 40 acres and the $2.5 million mitigation against the effects of the school has been hugely disappointing to this board. We have been ignored. We have been run over, roughshod. We have been denied the opportunity to properly represent the constituents of this school and this town that we were elected to do, because the town board refused to negotiate, include us in negotiations fairly with the reserve and the developer. The developer has taken every opportunity to obfuscate their duty to mitigate what we were supposed to get, what the town boards previous to this one had negotiated and in good faith given up other things so that the school could get 40 acres of usable land and a reasonable sum of money to help us prepare for the future. We've been ignored, and I am disgusted and aggravated that that we are left to vote, yes, we want this, or no, we don't, and we lose the opportunity to make anything of this property. We've been advised by our council that if we refuse to take the property, we may in fact give up our right to get the $2.5 million. So I want us to prepare a formal statement, release it to all of the news outlets, and let the world know how disappointed we are with the government of the town of Tuxedo. Well said, Dan.
All in favor?
Do we need
Or more discussion? Discussion?
I think that sums it up. That sums it up.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Any-
and we're going to do.
Any
Any
opposed?
opposed?
One abstention. I abstain. I want to make sure the language in the final version is terse and aggressive enough to adequately portray the behaviors, actions, and non-compliance to any normal understanding of cooperation that those people did when it came to dealing with us over the past 2 years.
Okay.
Understood.
Done.
Okay.
All right, now,
May I have a motion to approve the receipt of the land?
What?
Oh, she wants a resolution, actually. Here's the paper. Bear with me.
No, I don't think she would.
No, I gave it to Heather earlier.
Okay.
Melissa, do you want to see
She's there with
the
it.
roll call or the one that we bring up?
Yeah, I told her.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's not surprised.
No, just the resolution.
There you go.
Thank you.
That's why I make a bunch of copies.
Be it resolved that the board hereby authorizes its president to sign a land donation and cash contribution agreement with LR Tuxedo Development Group LLC and Tuxedo TPA Owner LLC regarding the Tuxedo Farms development as presented to the board at this meeting. A copy of said agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the meeting minutes of this meeting. May I-
I make a motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Great. So now may I have a motion to approve the resolution as stated?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Kimberly Breland,
Reluctant, yes.
William Clark,
Begrudgingly, yes.
Heather Kidda, yes. Alyssa Horniff,
Reluctantly, yes.
Daniel Castricone,
In full knowledge that they've made a mockery of the seeker process and the mitigation to the school of the damage and the impact that they're going to do, and the disgust and disdain I have for being in this position, yes.
Yeah, I mimic Dan's comments.
Okay.
Yes.
For all the reasons previously stated by everybody else on this motion, but also for all the reasons as to the rebuke motion. However, I would include just for this motion, my feelings is that this is a pittance and insulting by not just the town board's actions, but by the representative of the builders in dealing with us. And for all those reasons, I vote no.
thank you.
I
May I
make a motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Dan. Yes, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very